Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington.
Well, thanks, Vincent McCory. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, the Voice of America has reduced staffing at VOA headquarters in Washington, D.C. So as you see, our broadcast looks a little different for now. We appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Channels Television in Lagos brings you that story.
Worried over the spate of killings and kidnappings by bandits in Kaduna State, the state government has unveiled plans to begin community policing in the state. Here's more on that story.
Kaduna, just like many other states in the northern part of the country, is currently facing the challenges of banditry and kidnapping. This security challenge has led to the death of many residents, with socio-economic activities affected due to the inability of farmers to go to their farms.
Zongo and Kauru local government are areas.
This gathering of lawmakers, district heads, local government chairmen with the state government is to discuss how best to tackle the problems.
We have received a directive to liaise with the local government's chairman to forward the list of 50 youths, preferably those who are already in vigilant service, operations from their local governments for onward delivery to the Commissioner of Police.
After about 3 hours in a closed-door meeting, the lawmakers briefed reporters on some of the immediate and long-term resolutions reached. One of the first steps is the urgent need to recruit more youths as community policing constables.
We're looking at the temporary solution to the problem. Until we are able to have the state police, we believe we have to now work closely with the suggestion and position of Kaduna State government by making sure that we involve the community, working closely with the traditional institutions, the community leaders, as well as the political leaders. That is what we've been doing. I have no doubt in my mind we will be able to tackle the problem.
They also resolved to engage traditional rulers in the community policing arrangement, given their closeness to the people at the grassroots.
There is the issue of giving advice on the security situation and then helping government in tackling some of the issues. That's most of the things that are supposed to be done.
Residents of Kaduna are not new to such meetings, but they pray this yields the expected results of ending the spate of killings in the state.
Well, let's see the benefits of community policing in Kaduna State. And joining us today is security expert David Otto. Thanks for joining us on Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
So what do you make of the Kaduna State government's plans to introduce community policing? It won't be the first state in the country to be doing so.
Of course, this, of course, is a demonstration of the frustration that a lot of states are having, with dealing with policing that is no longer there for the community. The chief security officer of Kaduna State, Malam Governor Nasir El-Rufai, sees this as an opportunity to create a community policing that will be in charge of security. Just this morning, about 16 people were reported to have been killed on the Abuja-Kaduna highway. And it tells you that without security, you would see people taking their own security into their own hands, and this is what is happening in Kaduna.
Right, so I did mention earlier that Kaduna State will not be the first to introduce community policing, and it will join some other southwestern states who have commenced this to tackle security challenges. But where does the Nigerian police force fit into all this?
Of course, this is where the biggest challenge is, because the Nigerian police force, especially the Inspector General of Police, he's talked about a 13.3 billion naira investment in community policing. So the issue is the state is pulling the federal government on the issue of community policing. While the IGP is saying that the role of the police, has to be in charge of this community policing, the states are saying that they have to be in charge. And this is where the bone of contention is. But when you look at the language of the Inspector General of Police, as recently, when he said, police officers, should, pull out their weapons and shoot if they felt that, their lives were threatened. I mean, this is in the back of the NSAS, of course. But we've seen that even police officers are not safe in Nigeria. Recently, about 11 police officers were kidnapped, and ransom was demanded by kidnappers. It's a demonstration to the states that the federal government's policing is no longer in charge. And this is where they're now trying to take control using the community policing.
And recently, the Southwestern Initiative, Amoteco, as you also mentioned just a minute ago, said that they will not tolerate indecent dressing and a bastardization of the Yoruba language. Should this, be part of their brief? What should they really be doing?
As long as the Nigerian police force has lost, its credibility and trust in the streets, what you'd have is community policing coming in from various states and initiating their own rules and regulations, some of which might not necessarily be part of what the community expects. But this is what you have when people are fighting for survival. So
more states, as we see, are latching on to, community policing. But how can they properly harness the benefits of this to tackle insecurity while curbing their excesses?
I mean, of course, the whole idea is that, without the community, there is no policing. And without policing, there's also no community. So what we see here are states that are trying to ensure that, their communities are safe. But at the same time, the challenge is that, when it comes to community policing, the stringent approach that the police uses, to recruit its police forces and train them, that doesn't exist. So you would have a situation where, at worst, community police officers or, whatever they tend to call them, will be working with criminal elements. And this is where the danger is. I mean, this is not to say that we haven't seen situations where, official police officers are colluding with organized crime groups.
Thank you so much, security expert David Otto. Thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Along with peace agreement with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, Israel signed a normalization agreement with Sudan. As Linda Gradstein reports from Tel Aviv, many Sudanese asylum seekers living in Israel fear the deal could lead to their deportation back to Sudan.
Ali Abakar Adam escaped the violence in Darfur in South Sudan and has lived in Israel for the past 8 years. As a community representative of the 6,000 Sudanese asylum seekers, he says that many welcome the peace deal between Israel and Sudan.
We are very happy about it, and yes, we have some, questions and some, reservation about it.
Those reservations include a fear that some in the recently reformed Sudanese government are the same military soldiers and members of militias who attacked their villages in Sudan, forcing them to leave.
It's the same people in the government, not new people. We want there to be peace, but it should be in the hands of people who really want peace.
Adam says that eventually most of the refugees do want to return home, but only when they know it's safe and secure.
We want to build our country and to live with our families and friends. No one, prefer to live outside of his country all his life. So we want to be back to our country, but not right now because the situation is not safe enough.
Activists say Israel has not always been willing to wait for a safe situation before pressuring asylum seekers to leave.
Actually, since 2013, when Israel started the voluntary leave procedure, thousands of Sudanese and Eritrean moved to Rwanda and Uganda that offered them no safe haven, despite the promises of the Israeli government. And many of them did so because of the harsh treatment and the decrees of the Israeli government here.
The Sudanese community in Israel continues to live in limbo, hoping that the government will keep its current promise not to deport anyone whose asylum claim is still pending. Linda Gradstein for VOA News, Tel Aviv.
Nigeria is planning to increase foreign investment in the nation's fledgling information technology industry. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, announced this while unveiling Nigeria's pavilion at the 2020 Gulf Information Technology Exhibition in Dubai.
It is the only face-to-face tech event to take place anywhere in the world this year, and it's uniting international technology visionaries, industry innovators, and global investors. Nigeria is joining 13 other countries at the 40th edition of the Gulf Information Technology Exhibition, taking place at the Dubai World Trade Center, United Arab Emirates.
I therefore commission.
The event provides Nigeria an opportunity to sell her vision of a digital economy, and the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy is leading that drive.
As we can see, this year's participation is all about to bring about cross-fertilization of innovation and ideas. We are not here to participate just to see what has been taking place, but rather to ensure that we get more investors that are willing to invest in Nigeria, and secondly, to get technology transfer, and thirdly, to do the best we can to have cross-fertilization of ideas and innovations.
The event brings together about 1,300 exhibitors, including over 300 startups from over 60 countries. There are pavilions from most innovative, technological and promising nations. 10 Nigerian startups are on display here.
We are working on the digital innovation and entrepreneurship policy, which will help us create the ecosystem, create the enabling environment, and provide the infrastructure for our startups. Likewise, we are doing a lot in terms of capacity building to build the capacity for our startups, as well as our citizens to understand and embrace these new emerging technologies so that we can build the future we are creating.
This year, Nigeria is an official partner, and the National Information Technology Development Agency is spearheading Nigeria's participation at this event.
It's time for a short break. As we do, we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come, electric tuk-tuks on the streets of Uganda. African startup SocoWatch deploys low-maintenance electric tuk-tuks to supply goods to micro-retailers.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Ghana's women-only trucking company, Ladybird Logistics, has seen its fleet of trucks quadruple in the last 2 years and the number of its drivers triple. Stacey Nott reports from Takoradi in Ghana.
Iram Sador is proud to be one of the first women to join Ladybird Logistics, a trucking firm in Ghana that claims to be the world's first to hire only female drivers. She also loves seeing newly recruited ladies get behind the wheel.
The company is developing, because we start with 11 drivers. We are the first batch, and now everything is improving well, more drivers are coming, more cars are coming.
Since starting in 2017, the company has grown from 5 trucks in 2018 to 20 trucks today, with 35 women drivers and 14 more in training. While some of Ghana's male truckers encourage them, the company says others don't want to see women in the profession.
The guys thought this wouldn't be possible. And they were thinking maybe the trucks, the woman will be smashing the trucks here and there. But 2 years down the line, we are still going and we are growing.
Ladybird drivers say the work is empowering and shows the importance of giving women equal opportunities.
You can't recruit only men. We've got families to feed. And what if my husband is the only person who brings income and then he's sick? So I bring income, he also brings income. It helps the society, it helps the country. Women take care. When you educate a woman, you know you educate a country.
S&M Nyairo has been pushing Ghana's women to get into commercial driving. She started out in Accra as a taxi driver, also a job dominated by men. Now she trains women to drive trucks and buses and has seen increasing support from Ghanaian men.
When you have fathers, brothers, uncles talking to you and asking how they could get their nieces, their daughters and their grandchildren into the profession, it tells you society has been listening.
Nyairo and Ladybird Logistics say they will continue steering more women into the profession. Stacey Knott for VOA News, Takoradi, Ghana.
An African startup, SocoWatch, is deploying electric tuk-tuks to supply goods to micro-retailers, a first on the continent, in a move that could slash fleet maintenance costs by more than 50%.
Tuk-tuks are not a rare sight across many African countries, but one new fleet of the three-wheeled vehicle silently making its way onto the streets of the Ugandan capital, Kampala, is different. Kenya-based firm SocoWatch is deploying electric tuk-tuks to deliver goods to small retailers in what is claimed as a first for the continent. It's a move that could provide a welcome option in cities across the region grappling with growing air pollution from gridlocked highways. But for SocoWatch, it's also about slashing maintenance costs. Mary Nankinga is a mechanical engineer who manages the fleet.
I'm a professional mechanical engineer and I work as a fleet manager at SocoWatch Uganda. My major job here is to ensure that I keep fleet uptime of 98% and work within the budget means.
Previously, micro-retailers would have to travel downtown in order to be able to get the stock that they needed. This would cost them time, this would cost them money in terms of the customers that they were not serving, and also in terms of shop security. When you leave your shop in the hands of someone else, you don't know what's happening when you're not there.
Chief Executive Daniel Yu describes electric vehicles as the future of mobility across Africa.
We truly do believe that electric vehicles are the future of mobility, both around the world, but also specifically in Africa, and especially when it comes to powering commerce for retailers across the continent.
Admittedly, SocoWatch currently has just 8 electric tuk-tuks in Uganda compared to 178 that are gasoline-powered, but the company is looking to deploy an additional 8 in Rwanda before rolling out the vehicles in Kenya and Tanzania. And Yu says they are looking to expand into West Africa next year.
Blackfeet Boxing, Not Invisible, is a documentary that shows how Native American women at the Blackfeet Reservation in Browning, Montana, take up boxing to defend themselves from abduction, rape, and domestic abuse, an epidemic in Native American communities. VOA's Penelope Pulu has more.
All you hear, I've taught how to defend yourself. What would you do if someone grabs you?
Fight back.
Fight back, because why?
So you don't get stolen?
Yeah, it might be the last time that we ever see you. That's a reality in Indian country that's going on.
At his boxing club on the Blackfeet Reservation in Browning, Montana, Frank Kipp has been training girls and women to defend themselves against an epidemic of abduction and murder of Indigenous women. One of these women was Ashley Loring Heavyrunner, who disappeared in June 2017. The relentless search for her by her community and her sister Kimberly Loring inspired the documentary Blackfeet Boxing, Not Invisible by Kristen Lappas.
It was people grieving, it was, people putting her
wanted poster, the missing person posters up all over the reservation.
You can't talk about missing people without also addressing drug and alcohol abuse, domestic violence, child abduction, human trafficking. There's all these social problems.
Donna Kipp, daughter of Frank Kipp, grew up in the gym. She has competed in boxing tournaments and knows how it feels to be a woman living on a remote reservation 2 hours away from any large town.
We're in a small area, and sometimes men prey on you. Older men, sometimes we have people come here and they don't even live here, because it's a tourist stop.
It's literally been generations and generations of women being treated, indigenous women being treated this way on the reservation. From the outside people, the white man, from the men in their own community.
A former probation officer on the Blackfeet reservation, Frank Kipp, has seen kids struggle in a dysfunctional environment.
It's talked a lot of kids out of suicide, created programs for kids we had vehicle accidents, and we were losing kids bi-monthly. Main thing is I want you guys here. I never, ever close that door.
There is no place for young people to go and hang out in a productive environment except for Frank's gym. He's changing the mindset of the young women on the reservation to feel empowered, to feel confident.
But the reservation has been hit hard by the coronavirus, and Frank Kipp had to close the gym.
For most kids, it's kind of hard, and because we know they want to get back into the gym
and find a mental and emotional outlet. Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
And that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. ChannelsTV.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joker Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.